Welcome to Eagle Eye.
What a break from Manolo!
Interviewing your favorite USA Eagles around the globe.
Tony Lamb into the 22.
Now, here's your host, Bill Baker.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Eagle Eye Rugby Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, when you get a moment, like, subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Now, on today's show, I've had the great pleasure again of talking to Dan Lyle. You all know Dan Lyle, USA Rugby Hall of Famer, and also Donal Walsh. Both Dan Lyle and Donal Walsh are with AEG Rugby, and we have a good conversation about a big event coming up, the USA Sevens Collegiate Championships in Atlanta. Full disclosure, actually, Donal and I used to play rugby together down in Atlanta. Great guy. I've actually haven't talked to him in years, so it was a great chance to catch up here on in the show. We don't talk a lot about those playing days, but we get right into the Collegiate Championships. Anyway, it's a lot of good information about this tournament. Check it out. If you can get down to it, even better. I'm hoping to be there myself, and if you get down there, look out for me, and I'll look out for you. Anyway, here I am with Dan and Donal about the championships. Dan, Donal, thank you so much for joining me. Give me this moment. I'm really excited to talk about some Rugby Sevens. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you, Bill?
You know, I'm deferring to Donal a little bit because he's on the delay, and so it reminds me of doing TV. Right, we have to wait, second and a half before you talk.
The insight. We're learning all the tricks of the trade.
All right, so let's start off with this, Dan. Let's talk about college rugby in the U.S. Something more general right now. For me, I'm confused about divisions and tournaments. NERA, ACR, SCRC, that kind of stuff. Could you just paint a picture of what the collegiate rugby landscape looks like here in the United States?
Yeah, obviously we don't have enough time in the show to really, doctor the whole thing out. But look, I think that it's the one thing in spite or despite the multitudes of divisions, the multitudes of seasonality, the all of the different things that are out there. It's the one thing that we don't have to play catch up with on the rest of the world, and it's one thing that the American public, sporting public in general, can understand very quickly and easily, right? So the college landscape is life in Lindenwood as much as it is Notre Dame and Cal and Penn State, right? And so that's the same in lacrosse as it is in ice hockey, as it is in college basketball, right? The John Hopkins of lacrosse, the St. Mary's and Gonzagas, of basketball, etc. So that's something that we can define really easily to the American public and really kind of stand out or stand up with the rest of the world.
And Donal, it's an exciting event coming up in May. The USA Rugby Sevens Collegiate Championships. It's good to see championships returning, especially post COVID. Talk about the importance of an event like this, or even why build a championship.
Well, I think it's important in the American landscape to have a national championship for sport every year. It's important in this day and age to have both men and women competing in the same environment, and we're very lucky in rugby that we have a sport that sort of goes hand in hand, both men and women's, being able to compete in similar fields, similar stadiums, similar infrastructure. So really, like Dan is saying, I think America's role in the global game of rugby can be college rugby and be the preeminent college rugby union in the world. So putting a tournament like this together in a world-class facility like Kennesaw State University and bringing the top 30 teams for men and women into that high-performance environment, we think it's very important to educate both fans as well as college administrators as well as the general public that rugby as a sport in this high performance environment is very exciting, very thrilling, very rewarding to be a part of. So we've got some tremendous partners like NBC Sports and like some other business entities like National Rugby Sevens that have come together and say, hey, can we make an event that's a pinnacle event for both men and women at the collegiate game to really illustrate, how vibrant the sport is here in the States and how great the athletes are that are competing in it. So we feel it's it's the perfect formula for a great event that will stand the test of time for many years to come, as we've seen with other successful collegiate events in the past. But the key thing here is working with USA Rugby, bringing men and women together, competing in the same environment, shoulder to shoulder, as they say in Irish rugby. We think it's very compelling and will be something that will stand the test of, as I say, be a testament to rugby in the States, but also the test of time that this will be an annual event that everybody will be able to get excited about and mark it in on their calendars early in the year.
So, Donal, let's stay with you. You talked about stakeholders and partners. Can we get a little more in specifics with that? Besides NBC Sports, are you working with Atlanta partners as well to get this off the ground?
Yeah, so there's a couple of companies that have come together and formed an entity in Atlanta. A couple of our former teammates, Bill from Old White, older members of the club that have, gone out and lived their lives and now want to get back to the sport, which is not uncommon. And they partnered with an organization called the Aspire Group. The Aspire Group have a long-standing tradition of being very successful in the college sports business space, particularly in ticketing and high-end premium seating. So they had formed an entity and came to us at AEG Rugby to sort of say, hey, is there something out there that could really be compelling within the national landscape for rugby in the States? Could that be a club competition? Could that be an international competition? Could that be men's rugby, women's rugby, etc.? And we together came up with this concept of the national championship with USA Rugby as one of our key stakeholders in the Collegiate Rugby Council. So there's a number of parties that have come together, but the prime entities within this would be AEG Rugby, AEG Sports, which is our company, and NR7s, which again is made up of two other entities that have come together, and we're the primary stakeholders. And then we have partners, like you say, such as KSU, Kennesaw State University, NBC Sports, Cobb County, which is where the stadium is located, the City of Atlanta, their sports commission. So a number of people that I think are really excited about rugby coming to the Southeast and coming to Atlanta, and have seen the buzz about rugby over the last 10 to 15 years in the States, where it is more on TV now, where it has been getting more acclaim and getting more exposure and World Cups and things of that nature, obviously on NBC Sports, as Dan is an expert on. So yeah, there's a number of stakeholders involved, but really this is an event for the Atlanta rugby community, as well as the Southeast rugby community, for everybody to get involved, support it, and show what a great home for rugby the Southeast US is.
And Dan, which is the field already set for this? Which teams are we looking to see in this event? If not, how do they qualify? But also, is there any financial assistance for these teams, because they've been hit pretty hard over the past couple of years with COVID?
Yeah, it's a balancing act in this year one, where what we wanted to do was, as Donal says, create equal parts male female, put it on in a time of year where colleges were still in session, on a college campus within an environment where there's multiple fields, et cetera, so that we can have these three divisions of a championship. And so there's some teams that pick themselves, by way of history and where they are in the rankings. And there are some qualification tournaments that will go on this year, or are going on between now and the mid-April. Those will all combine together, but it's purely the jurisdiction of the Collegiate Council of USA Rugby. We give our input. We talk about the strengths and balances of building events, but it's within their jurisdiction to pick the teams. I think it's pretty cool that the D1 Elite Women and the NERA Women's teams will compete against each other in a 12-team, Division I national championship, which I think is really cool. And then the next D1 club sides will form that second division. So a really high caliber, and then an open Division II division. And that's really the same Division I, Division AA, and Division II, and the male-female side of things. So it's really kind of all things, not just in elite brackets, but and not just a male bracket. So working hand in glove, and that was part of what, as Donal referenced, working together with the Collegiate Council and USA Rugby right from the beginning, so that we can come together and build a robust, meaningful, competitive, competition.
And Dan, switching over to the broadcast partnership side with NBC Sports, who you obviously are affiliated with, what's that look like? What's the value that NBC Sports sees in an event like this?
Yeah, I think that they've bought into rugby, right? The 2009 vote of rugby getting back into the Olympics created the impetus to them to get involved in this event, or in collegiate athletics, rugby athletics, way back then. And they see the multiple universities, the dynamics of a geographical spread, the pathway to the Olympic Games. These are the athletes that are playing, in college, that will be playing moving forward. So it's a continuity for them, from a broadcast perspective, not just having the HSBC 7 series, but having an event where they can, almost like the Olympic trials, which they have those, in some of those annual national championship events. They're really valuable in telling the story. So it made sense to continue on with NBC, to build this, and they've really proven their mettle as far as the longevity and long term of wanting the sport to grow, and I think it really complements, the aggregate of what they have, on Peacock, on CNBC, and on NBC. And I think it's worth noting that this will be on Peacock, this will be on CNBC, and it will be on NBC proper, so 100 million homes, plus will have access to this. And that's really the exposure that Donald just talked about that we really want for this game. That's the only way to gain high value sponsors and to really test the mettle of the sport, against those other national championships that already exist on the calendar for college sports.
And Donal, let's talk about the venue for a second. Kennesaw State University is obviously no newcomer to hosting rugby events. Why are you sticking with KSU? Is it because of the partnerships in Atlanta? Also, how many years will this event be there?
To be determined on how many years the event would be there. We hope for perpetuity if things work out. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But from KSU perspective, we've obviously done events around the country in different environments, different stadiums. Their college stadium here, it holds about 8,800 people. Very intimate environment, fans close to the action, great thrill for the players on the field, as well as Dan alluded to the infrastructure around the stadium itself. We've got about 7 full-size rugby fields that we can put to our disposal over the competition days. So, we have the ability to play preliminary games earlier in the day, and everybody's playing those collectively. And then as you get closer to the finals, or as you work up the pyramid to the finals, they would be in the sort of showcase in the stadium. But it means that every athlete that's there competing can go and watch the sort of premier teams that are competing in the final competitions, like Dan said, on NBC Sports live over the course of the weekend. So, there's a number of fields, there's a number of infrastructures that are there with KSU. One of the most compelling parts of their bid, if you will, to us was that they could house the teams and the athletes on campus while they're in Atlanta or in the greater metro Atlanta area. So, like Dan says, it's making sure there's parity amongst all teams. It's giving them an environment that would be akin to what they would experience in an Olympic Village. Pretty much once they get to the venue, or once they get to the Atlanta airport, more accurately, we'll pick them up. We'll bring them up to the facilities. We'll check them in, and they'll train there. They'll rest there. They'll eat and drink there over the weekend until their competition's over, and then we'll bring them back to the airport and ship them home. So it's very much turnkey once they get into the Atlanta metro area, which is one of the big, and it's very self-contained within the KSU campus. So we can bring athletes there, and athletes can exist there for the whole 4 or 5 days that they're in town in a comfortable environment, high-performance environment, and really have a great end to the week, as I say, Saturday, Sunday in competition time. So, And KSU is a world-class facility and very easy to get to. A great staff of people there. They've really enjoyed their experience with rugby in the past. I believe they hosted the Georgia national team in the state of Georgia against the US, as well as they hosted a series stop for the women's Sevens World Series, HSBC Sevens World Series. They leg there, had a great experience, really loved the sport. So there was a number of factors that came into the decision, but we're very happy with that decision. And we think it's a great stadium and will be a great experience for both the athletes and the fans alike.
And with this initial event, Donal, what would make it a success for you? What's the gauge for you?
Well, I think, I think proving out the concept that we've been designing, i.e. that it's a successful event at KSU, a healthy crowd that's coming to watch the athletes play. I think first and foremost, probably happy athletes, that they're in a good environment where they're able to express themselves and perform to their abilities. I think laying the groundwork for programs to sort of see that this event could be something where it's a great excuse for an alumni group from a rugby team at a college program around the country to come back together. It's a good excuse for the friends and family of athletes to come together and congregate and support their teams. As well as, like Dan said, the exposure for the sport is very important. We've got great athletes playing the game. It's an amazing sport to play. And having them on national TV, showcasing their skills and their skill sets of what a great game rugby is, we think is obviously a major part of the success of this event as we continue to grow. But, the event is designed as most Sevens properties are. It's over 2 days, so Saturday, Sunday. A good crowd both days, a fun environment, a fun atmosphere, we think will be very important, as typically they, are easy to generate at a Sevens event because everybody's in a good mood. But again, happy athletes, happy coaches, happy administrators, happy university where we're hosting it, happy broadcasters. There's a lot of people to make happy, but I think everybody will be. I think, like I said, I think the direction that we've seen that everybody wants to travel in is one to really get rugby on a higher pedestal. You do go to Atlanta and people are aware that there's a potential Rugby World Cup bid coming, and the city is very motivated to ensure that they're in the mix for that conversation. So they see competitions like this as a good stepping stone to that, which makes a lot of sense. So, I think overall, I think it'll be a great event for everybody concerned. Success for us will be getting the event done and probably sitting down with a pad of paper on the day after the event and figuring out where do we go wrong and how do we do better in year 2, year 3, year 4.
Dan, and just one more thing for you guys, or a couple more things. Dan, are there more and more events like this, and specifically this event? Is it important for the athletes and the teams coming in, and for you as a rugby, to see it as a potential pathway to a national team?
Everything that we do at this event doesn't have to be structured to support the national team, right? But everything that we do, if it can, then why not, right? Mm-hmm. So it starts with USA Rugby, and allowing them to be to understand fully what we're doing and modeling it around where these athletes might be going, right? But, certainly 1% of 1% go on. So the majority of these athletes, it's about the experience that they have at the event, right? And if they have the right experience, then they're going to be fans moving forward. If the sponsors have the right experience, they're going to want to be part of something a little bit bigger. We all know that college sports is, in the American sports complex, the stepping stone for the Olympics and for national team activities, right? So it's almost like inherently it becomes part of that, right? So we kind of funnel a lot of our energy towards that in order to make that happen. But we also have a parallel of a quality event, quality athlete experience, student athlete experience. That's why we're on a college campus. That's why we're engaged with Kennesaw and doing some of the other things. And first and foremost, I think we're proving that out. We have a collegiate conference going on around the game, right? And part of it is, what's the state of college rugby? Where does it sit, right? And that's for all, D2, D3, NCR, USA, everybody, right? It's what does that look like? And then two, what's the business of college rugby, right? What does it mean to grow the game on your campus with your constituency, with your alumni base, let alone these signature type events? And then one of the biggest initiatives that we're all behind is the Race to 40, the NERA NCAA movement. So having a panel on that. And then finally, a panel on the athletes, the male, female athletes that have come through collegiate sports and are now Olympians and or on the national teams, and see what that looks like. And then maybe top that off with a keynote of somebody that is, is truly an inspiration or an executive or a leader, within the overall business community, that is going to be able to use, in parallel, their college rugby experiences to lessons learned and values, that they have, in their own businesses and in their own life, right? So we're putting, I think, on those three parts, the student experience, the Olympic pathway, and the growth of the game all together. And I think that's a bundle versus individually looking at each thing individually.
And Donal, lastly, how can fans find out more information about this event and get tickets as well?
Yeah, so I'll just add to Dan's last point that I think with the conference, I think there is a lot of interest in there in the college community about understanding how I play rugby. How do I go about putting a program on campus? What type of coaches do I need? What type of infrastructure do I need? What type of playing fields do I need? And that's definitely a forum that we feel that college administrators or potential club sports administrators from various institutions could come and learn more about the game on that Friday before the tournament, as well as then experience some rugby on the field over the weekend. I think there is a hunger out there that people want to understand the game a bit more. And I think it's incumbent upon us as rugby people to be educating institutions on this is what the sport is and this is all the great things that you can do for it. In terms of tickets, you can get them on our website, which is or7cc.rugby. I think general tickets go on sale actually tomorrow, March 1st, to the general public. Similar to events that we've done in the past, teams that are participating are asked to will be required to purchase an allotment of tickets for first and foremost their fans and their programs, and getting people to come and do it, people to come and attend and support them, but as well to show that there's value in their programs competing at this event and showing us and educating us that they're well followed teams. So the teams will have a ticket requirement. There'll be tickets on sale to the general public. We are running programs of a VIP nature for potential host sponsors of people that would want to work with individual teams, which is a program that we've rolled out in the past and was very well received in the community. And like Dan said, it's all sort of a part of educating people on the sport of rugby and the fact that it is a mainstream sport and it's here in the States, and it's something that can really emulate some of the other great collegiate sports that they have here in the US.
Well, Dan, Donal, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the event, and I'm hoping to get down there for it myself.
Look forward to having you.
Yeah, you'll have a front row center seat there, Bill. Absolutely.
Good to see you. Thanks, Bill.